Hey Zalivers, this is SUPERZOMGBBQ, and today is a discussion that I've been wanting to post for some time. With all the new stuff that was coming to Supercard, I decided to wait my time. If you've been a follower of the game, a loyal follower of that, you'll notice there's been a lot of changes between Season 3 and Season 4, let alone Season 2 to where we are right now. And whilst you could argue that Season 3 was the peak of WWE Supercard thus far, Season 4 seems to have dropped down a little bit, mainly due to the problems with the likes of King of the Ring, PvP, as well as other glitches in the game. But also some very controversial changes, some stuff that people will argue they didn't want to see in the game from the get-go. Now there is no doubt that especially after the most recent free community appreciation, player appreciation week, the Cat Daddy, WWE 2K, whatever you want to call them, are listening to the fans about concerns they've got about the game. Even myself, I can feel a much bigger buzz about the game and people are talking about it. And with the release of a new tier only weeks away, it is very possible that we could feel the excitement running through our fingertips as we crack into a new tier, new features, new game modes, who knows. Still, these next things we're going to be discussing could be very valid changes, and that's why today we're going to talk about the 10 ways to make WWE Supercard great again. Before we get into each one, I'm going to go down from 10 to number 1, and they're in no particular order. Smack that like button if you want to see more of this kind of video on the channel. I like doing these discussion points, but I want to know what your thoughts are. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We are almost 2,000 subscribers away from 100,000 subscribers, ladies and gentlemen. It's exciting times. And turn notifications on whilst you're there, so not miss a single video. And let's get right into number 10. Increasing the card limit. Well, this is always going to be an obvious one, so I wanted to get out of the way straight away. The card limit is rubbish. 250 cards, unless there is some kind of future reason as to why we're not getting a card limit increase. The fact that they increased the enhancement limit recently, but didn't increase the card limit totally, is really affecting people's games. I will praise Supercard a lot, and I will also criticize them. One thing I can criticize them for is the way that they have run the game since Heroic and Fusion Fury came out with regards to the card limits. If you go to feedback in game, let's say you delete a card, you get a one-time redemption of getting your cards back. But what if you really want to keep your Goldberg, Titan, Heroic Pro, your first ever Heroic Pro, but you don't have the space in your card catalog? Why can't you keep that? You can't keep those cards. If you need to get rid of them, then that's on you, even though you might have spent money to get those. And that's one of the things that I absolutely, it's my number one bugbear about this game. Apart from one other issue, it's my number one bugbear is that the card limit stops people from keeping the cards they want to keep. You know, believe it or not, and I'm sure a lot of people who are emotionally invested into this game as well will say that it's almost like physically collecting a card, a rare card, an item that, any of these Heroic Pros here you might want to keep because you might feel to yourself, you know what, I really want to know that I've got a physical representation I can show for my time and effort in Titan tier, and instead actually in 2 or 3 tiers time you're going to have to get rid of it because there's not going to be enough space in the card catalog. We can't talk about the past, so let's talk about the future. My personal opinion is that the card limit should at least be raised to 350, but I know the reasons why they haven't done this. And this is reported a long time ago that it's actually down to the size of the game. They don't want to increase the game size, and there's positives and negatives to that. Positives are we've got a game with nearly over 4,000 cards in it when you include pros, plus all the Season 1 cards as well. The negative is, unfortunately, with all those cards, the card limit has to stay at a certain position. That would be a very big move in the right direction. Number 9, community involvement. This is something that I have been pleading with Supercard from since Season 2, since I started having any kind of, communicative relationship with not only Cat Daddy but 2K games as well. And I've been saying that community involvement is the number one most important thing across the entire community, across the entire fan base. I'm just a guy who makes content on YouTube, and I do streams every now and then. So it's not down to me to do that, but one thing that could really improve the community And not only that, but the communication and some of the negativity, the toxicity within this amazing fan base would be community involvement, where not just saying the community manager, but anyone involves themselves with the fan base. You could have votes for the next event card, you could have votes for the next team event card, you could have votes for a new additional cards that can go into the game halfway through a tier. All those small little things they make big inroads. It's probably not the most number one important thing, but it sure would make everyone feel a hell of a lot better. I remember back in the day when we did get the QR code, even though that QR taker event back in January 2017 was pretty atrocious in practice, it was a very big step up from the previous community involvement that had had in the game. Number 8, the Fusion Chamber. Well, this one is something that I have mentioned recently, and very simply put, the Fusion Chamber is very outdated. With the Fusion Fury, great idea. Execution, like anything, could have been better. I could have probably executed this video better. But the fact that you can't have a normal fusion running the same time as you've got either a Fusion Fury or a special kind of fusion is, in my opinion, wasting and frustrating the player's time. In my opinion, you should be able to have at least 2 fusions going at the same time. If you've got a monster going, you should be able to have a beast going. If you've got a titan going, you should have a monster be able to keep going. Or alternatively, if you want to get yourself involved in a Spring into the Ring event, or the Winter Fusions event, or whatever they decide to do in the future, you should be able to join in both the Spring into the Ring. It should be like a separate fusion chamber. If that's not able to happen, then the one thing that should be considered is when they update the fusion chamber to bring in these new events, they should speed people's fusions up. It's not really going to cause that much damage to the game if you speed everyone's fusions up so they can start using the new fusion chamber straight away. Number 7, this is something that actually has been dealt with, but it's still not something that's absolutely perfect, and this is about support pools. Now, to explain what's happened with support pools, back in the day, a support pool could be your tier pool, and technically it still can be, but there are things in the game called resets, and when you reach a certain amount of resets, I believe it's 120 or something similar like that for Titan++ players, or Monster++, etc. When you get to that certain level, that's when you get something called a pity pool, and that is, you've reached the limit of resets and the game just gives you a card. You will never get yourself a support pool from there. It's always going to be a superstar, whether that be male or female. But if you get an early pool, even as far as 119 resets, for example, whilst we're mentioning about the Titan++ and Monster++ reset limits, you can still pull a support off of the board, and that will count as your tier pull. By the way, enhancements have not counted as your tier pull since Season 2. So if you ever get an enhancement off the board that's in your tier, whether it be Titan, Monster, Legendary, whatever it is, that's not your pull, that's just a random pull off the board. But that is what support should be. A random pull off the board, not affecting your superstar reset in any stage of the game. And the only way you're going to get a tier reset is if you get yourself a superstar from the draft board. Number 6, reducing player stress. Now, there's going to be a few people out there who are going to say, well, I don't get stressed by the game, I don't get worried about the game, it's how it is, and I like how the game is, and you are more than entitled to disagree with any of these points. It's purely an opinion piece from what I've been seeing through the community. However, I will say, one thing I think a lot of people can agree with is the stress that it put on players to play the game on a regular basis. Supercard has gone from a game you just picked up, you played, you put down, you did something else, to being a game that has got active events all the time. It is one of the most popular mobile games that is concurrently played. But one of the issues with that is that since Season 4 came in, and arguably you could say since Season 3, it has been a very antisocial game. And I'll give you a couple of reasons why. First of all, you have to play Ring Domination if you want to get yourself your event card or get yourself any cards in the game. Road to Glory is then the next thing. Then you have team events. Then you get the heroic events. Then you got the PvP and the momentum slots. And honestly, overall, it just becomes a bit too much. And it's gonna end up burning people out. And it does make me wonder that they brought in the new PvP, modes, the Royal Rumble, the Elimination Chamber. Some of these games take a long time to play. But as a free player, how do you manage all of that in one? I'm sure there's a few who can, but overall, surely that's just going to turn people off from playing the game. And I know personally a couple of players who stopped playing the game because it just felt like there was too much to do. I'll give you an example. Momentum slots are a fantastic idea, and the way they are right now, it's a great concept. However, would it be better to know that if you play events, you get yourself one momentum slot for completing an event, one for completing a team event, and then get yourself anything up to 5 from the PvP with a maximum cap of 5 momentum slots across the board. So even if you got yourself 5 from PvP, you'd still get yourself 1 from your event, 1 from your team event, and then 3 from PvP. That would be so much better. And maybe get some for King of the Rings and stuff like that. There just could be more ways to do this than just having to sit there looking at your phone 24/7. Like I said, this eventually could lead to massive burnout. And this brings me on to the next point. New events. Now, we've only been asking for this for nearly 2 years, Cat Daddy. Come on, what's going on? When you're expecting players to play all the time to keep themselves, especially if they're in the top of the game, to push themselves to things like heroic and then get themselves the momentum slots and then play King of the Rings and do this and do this and do this. Honestly, you gotta be kidding me when you're thinking to yourself, oh yeah, by the way, we've got this Ring Domination and Road to Glory that we haven't changed since Season 3. And in fairness, Road to Glory has been the same for over 36 months. It's beginning to come on point with new events that this is no longer an option. By the beginning of Season 5 or whatever's coming next, there has to be at least one new event in the game. Otherwise, people are just going to just turn around and walk away because Road to Glory is a slog. Ring Domination is fun. For me anyway, I'm sure there's other people who don't like it. But, after a while, you kind of get bored of just doing the same thing over and over and over again. Bring a little variety into it, a bit of, what is this week's event going to be? Is it going to be a Road to Glory? Is it going to be a Ring Domination? Is it going to be a PCC? Is it going to be this? Is it going to be that? And then we bring into the conversation Heroic Mode. And whilst it's a great idea, especially for Ring Domination, I'll say this now, Heroic Mode and Ring Domination is a great idea. It works for the most part. There's a couple of things that I don't really understand. But for Road to Glory, it's just a massive slap in the face to people, especially who are loyal players. And I'm using very passionate language because I care about the game as much as most people do. And with Heroic Mode, it eventually does become stale. I mean, I can't bring myself to play a Road to Glory twice in one go. It's just, why? Why does it even exist? But it's not something that really benefits the vast majority of players, and it was never supposed to be. It's supposed to be a way of giving the best of the best of the best the ability to prove they're the best of the best of the best by giving them event cards that are far more overpowered than the normal event cards, or even the half heroic cards. But there are just parts of Heroic Mode that just make no sense. Most of the criticism is aimed, granted, at Road to Glory and not Ring Domination, but both are flawed in both design and practicality. First of all, to expect a player to play Road to Glory twice, just a normal Road to Glory afterwards, but not with any special cards, I'll say this now, the first ever Heroic Road to Glory, they got spot on. Hall of Fame, throwback cards available, maybe have an all-female heroic lineup. That is a great idea. It actually makes people and encourages people to play for images they don't have or don't have it packed instead of having to buy packs while still using credits for titles, bouts, and etc. The way they're doing things now with just these crazy normal cards that honestly just seems like it's just been slapped on the event because they didn't have any other ideas. It just doesn't make sense. The only way to get to Heroic Mode is to finish the current event, whether that be Ring Domination or Road to Glory. And that means you have to get to the end of the event card. If you get to the end of that event card, if you're in Ring Domination, you're already in Titan tier. Why do you need all of these undercards from SummerSlam 17 downwards if you're in Titan tier? Sure, someone could say, well, that gives me a couple of images, but I can imagine that's a very small minority. The biggest complaint I've heard about Heroic Mode is just the pointlessness of the cards that are underneath. It doesn't make sense. And Road to Glory is just wow. I mean, you have to finish the Titan event card and then restart from SummerSlam and go all the way across Road to Glory again, getting cards you don't need. Honestly, I think that's just... the whole mode comes across as rushed. Why, with Heroic mode, do we not just get a Beast, a Monster, a Titan, and a Heroic card? Why can't people who are in lower tiers go into Heroic when they complete their free cards for their tiers? Why can't it swap backwards and forwards to go from normal to Heroic? And why do people have to push themselves all the way to the end of a Titan event card, start all the way over again with no extension to the event, with no change to the points? The whole thing just needs someone to go with a spanner and just change the whole thing up. And whilst it is an event to reward the elitist players in the game, overall it just comes across as rushed. I mean, I'm sorry, if you're competing in a Titan event card, the likelihood is you do not need yourself a Titan Callisto, regardless of what it's going to be used for. With the Fusion Fury, there was a reason for it. Now, there's no reason. It's just a thing. But this moves me on to the game mode that suffers the most from Heroic mode, and that is Road to Glory. And number 3, remove Road to Glory from the game. Yeah, this game mode needs to be taken up back and really fixed up, because it's the same game mode from the very beginning when it first came out on Christmas Day in 2014. It's exactly the same game. There is no difference between that game now and the game that is here today. And the thing is, back in Season 1 and Season 2, you could get yourself some really awesome cards, mate. Either the points were much, much lower, so you could complete it quite quickly, easily, if you wanted to. Take your time with it. With Season 3 and Season 4, I mean, how can you expect players to play that much? I mean, even though they reduced it recently, compared to Season 1, the points, what's required to play is so much harder. And one of the reasons why people play Supercard is because they've got the best decks in the game. They like to play Ring Domination. More people prefer Ring Domination over Road to Glory. Probably because not only is it more interesting with the shards element, etc., but also you get to play people on the same level as you. With Road to Glory, until you get to the final level or your tier, you're not playing people at the same level as you. The matches are near enough pointless. For a short period of time, sure, it works. For a long period of time, it just eventually it starts to grate. And you could argue that the grind is something you have to do to progress, but it should never feel this boring. Number 2, allow more customization. Now this is another one where they had the right idea with Season 2. Bringing in tokens, it was a fun idea to bring in Season 2. It had a lot of, I wouldn't say skill, but if you really put thought into it, you could give yourself a massive advantage over other players by simply looking at other people's cards, seeing how they were statted up. Your deck was effectively yours. You effectively were signing and autographing your deck to say that belongs to you. That's your Page card. That's your Nikki Bella card. That's your event Ryback. That's your Undertaker, as an example. Over time, tokens have become pretty much useless, pointless, I'd say, due to the overuse. Now, obviously, there may be a big change in the coming weeks with a new tier coming out, and literally tokens becoming useless, then I mean beyond useless, because now if you put your tokens on and you train your cards up right, there's no customization. So what about introducing ideas like arrow changes? Maybe changing the borders and the backgrounds of the cards instead of changing the images, which is one of the best things about Supercard, is the fact you can change the images, which I'll show you here, for example, with this Nakamura card. I mean, I got this event Nakamura card back in Season 2, and in Season 4 I can use that Nakamura card. One of the best things about Supercard right there. Proc changes, so instead of it being speed and charisma, it becomes power and charisma, or it becomes toughness and speed, or something else like that. It could make the game so much different. For example, if I had a Sami Zayn event card and I tagged it with a Kevin Owens, right now the tag wouldn't match. But let's just say I changed that Sami Zayn to an up arrow or Kevin Owens to a left arrow, just imagine I'm now sitting there thinking that's my Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn doing that. It's not the random one you get in the game, it's yours. It feels personable. It offers a reason for people to come back. It's not just a random supercard, it's their game and they've chosen how to play it. And number one, pullable special event cards. And this goes for Hall of Fame, throwbacks, Valentine's card, winter fusions, whatever they are. These spring cards. The pumpkin and the Valentine's Day events got it spot on. You can still get these awesome cards from King of the Ring, pulls off the board. You know, even technically the fusion chamber side of things is, you know, it's a decent idea. But the fact that these cards are only available in packs and you can't get these packs without paying for them. You don't even have the ability to get them in Team Battleground anymore. Honestly, is just, it doesn't sit right. It really doesn't sit right. I've got myself nearly 100,000 battle points and I've got nothing to use it on. There's just, there's no point to it. If I go to rewards, battle point stores, there's nothing to spend it on. I'm in Titan plus tier. Even people in monster tier don't need to spend their battle points. Why not include the Hall of Fame and the throwback cards as a way of incentivizing people to play Team Battleground? It would bring so much enjoyment and excitement into the game, knowing that if you pulled yourself a monster card, it's got the possibility of being a special card. Something that you weren't able to get before. One big way of giving King of the Ring a massive spark to get it really popular again is include those cards as part of the rewards. And it will make new players want to play the game to get themselves some of these exclusive images. But that is 10 ways that WWE Supercard could be made great again just by adding a couple of those things to the game. It could make a massive difference. Now, I've got a question for the comment section. If you had only 3 to pick, which ones would you pick? Your answers in the comment section below. Remember to like this video if you like what's in the content, but also you'd like to see the kind of video more, and subscribe to the channel whilst we're on the road to 100,000 subscribers, and turn notifications on whilst you're there to not miss a single video. Until then though, I have been SUPERZOMGBBQ. You have been awesome. One last thing, and that is to